The candles were lit. The roast sat steaming on the table I'd prepared for Ethan's birthday. For 20 years, I never missed this ritual. Always waiting, always hoping he would walk through the door. But instead of hearing his keys, my phone buzzed. A photo filled the family chat. Ethan, arm wrapped tightly around Brittany, his co-worker. Behind them, Linda and Ryan grinned like it was their perfect holiday. The caption under the photo sliced me open. Family only. Palm Springs getaway. Much needed. Family only. And I wasn't part of it. Not the wife who cooked, who sacrificed, who kept his home alive. My table, our table, suddenly looked like the cruelest joke. I sat staring at those candles flickering, their light mocking me. 20 years of devotion, erased in one photo. Before I take you deeper into this story, let me pause here for a moment. If you've ever been excluded by the very people you gave your life to, tell me, how did it feel? Would you have stayed silent or would you have confronted them? Share your thoughts in the comments. I should introduce myself properly. My name is Claire. I am 52 years old, a wife who once believed loyalty was enough to bind a family, and a mother who poured her entire soul into keeping the house afloat. I cooked, cleaned, balanced bills, and carried burdens no one else even noticed. Ethan, my husband, was the breadwinner, or at least, that's what everyone thought. In reality, while his income was impressive, he gave me only scraps. $100 a month for household expenses. The rest? I didn't know. I trusted. I stayed quiet. But that night, watching that picture from Palm Springs, something inside me cracked. My sacrifice suddenly felt cheap. When Ethan finally returned days later, the smell of expensive cologne clung to him. Not the kind I ever bought. He placed a small bouquet of flowers on the counter. Dull, wilted carnations. "Happy belated birthday, Claire," he mumbled, barely looking at me. I forced a smile, but inside, humiliation burned. Just hours before, I had seen another photo online. Brittany, the woman who wore my husband's arm like a trophy, flaunted a necklace from Tiffany's, worth at least $25,000, a gift from Ethan. Do you feel the anger rising yet? Because I did. Every nerve in my body screamed that I had been made a fool. And then came the seed of conflict. While tidying up Ethan's jacket, I found his phone buzzing. A voice memo notification appeared. Out of habit, I pressed play. Ethan's voice came first, smooth and convincing. "Once I sign the house over, Ryan can finally get his condo. Don't worry, Brittany. You'll have your name on everything soon. Claire won't even see it coming." My knees nearly buckled. The house. The only thing I thought was secure. The one place I believed belonged to me. My late father had helped us buy it. My memories, my sacrifices, my entire identity as a wife and mother were tied to those walls. And here, Ethan was, plotting with his lover and his family to strip it away from me. I closed the phone and sat in the quiet. Rage clawed inside my chest, but something else surfaced too. Clarity. For the first time, I understood. They had underestimated me. They thought I was weak, a woman too timid to question, too devoted to resist. They were wrong. Because that very night I decided I would no longer play the victim in their story. I would write my own. Tell me, if you were in my place, would you confront Ethan immediately, or would you stay silent and plan in secret? As I tucked myself into bed, pretending to sleep when Ethan finally staggered in, I whispered silently to my father's memory, "Dad, they want to steal the house you helped me build, but I promise you, this time I won't let them win." The hook was set. A storm was coming. The morning after that humiliating family-only post, I brewed coffee on autopilot. My hands moved, but my chest was tight. Every sound in the kitchen felt amplified. The clock ticking like a countdown. The hiss of the kettle like a warning. couldn't shake the image of Brittany's necklace flashing in that photo, like a stolen crown on her throat. Almost without thinking, I opened my laptop and logged into our joint bank account, an account Ethan had always guarded like state secrets. "You're too stressed, Claire. Let me handle it," he'd say. Or, "Online banking is a mess, honey. Don't worry your head." I used to believe it was care. Now I knew it was control. The statements loaded. At first, nothing unusual. Utilities, groceries, the mortgage, mostly paid with the little I earned from bookkeeping. But then, I scrolled further. Transfers. Regular, hidden under vague labels. Consulting retainer. Event deposit. Professional services. My stomach dropped. $3,000, $9,500, $15,000. One after another, for months. I lined them up, columns of betrayal. My fingers trembled as I tallied the total. $330,000. The account name was masked as a company, but the contact email was Brittany's. The room seemed to tilt. My pulse thudded in my ears. Numbers don't lie, and these numbers told me how long Ethan had been draining me dry. Have you ever discovered a betrayal so vast that it stole the air from your lungs? I didn't scream. I went silent. The kind of silence that feels like glass, ready to shatter. That evening, Ethan came home whistling. Keys on the counter, jacket over the chair, like nothing was wrong. He saw the laptop still open, spreadsheets glowing coldly. "You've been busy," he said, his smile tight. "I like to know what family only costs," I replied, my tone flat as ice. His jaw tightened. "Don't start, Claire." "Consulting retainer. Is that what Brittany calls it?" I turned the screen toward him. $330,000, while I stretched pennies to keep this house standing. For a moment, his mask slipped. Then he chuckled, a cruel, dismissive sound. "You're overreacting. Brittany helped with a project. It's my money." I stared at him. Was our marriage just a charity you forgot to fund? Did you ever plan to leave me this house? He leaned forward, eyes sharp. "You're sabotaging yourself. You're 52, Claire. Past your prime. Why drag this out?" His words hit like a blade. But here's the truth. Anyone who tells you you're past your prime is terrified of the day you remember your worth. I held his stare until he looked away. "I'm meeting Mom at Linda's," he muttered, grabbing his coat. "Stay out of it." "Family only?" I asked. The door slammed, in answer. I didn't go numb. I went to work. I texted Monica, my oldest friend, now a paralegal. "Can you talk?" She called immediately. "Tell me everything." I told her about the photo, the memo, the transfers. She clicked her pen. "Claire, secure every document, birth certificate, marriage license, the original deed, and freeze any line of credit he could touch." "I have the original deed in a safe," I whispered, hearing my father's old warning. "Keep your papers where only your conscience can reach." "Good, but hurry," Monica said. "And Claire, keep your head down. Don't let them know you're onto them." My throat tightened. "Monica, they want the house." "They can want the moon," she answered. "But wanting isn't owning." 2 days later, Linda invited me to Sunday dinner. An invitation I hadn't seen in months. Suspicion churned in me, but I accepted. Civility can be its own weapon. I baked a peach cobbler, sweetness hiding steel, and drove to her mansion that reeked of rosemary and old money. Linda opened the door, smile polished, but eyes cold. "Claire," she sang, kissing the air beside my cheek. "So glad you could join us." Inside, Ryan lounged with his glittering watch, smug as ever. Ethan scrolled his phone. Brittany sat at the table, necklace winking beneath the chandelier like a trophy. I didn't realize we had guests, I said, my voice calm. Brittany leaned forward. We're family, she said proudly. Ethan and I are close, I finished, my eyes cutting through her smile. Linda laid her manicured hand over mine. We need to talk like adults. Ethan carries so much. Ryan's condo fell through. We're all helping each other, and sometimes that means making practical choices. Practical, I echoed. Like forging my name on a deed? Forks froze midair. Ryan smirked. Come on, Claire. That house is too big for one woman. You don't even use half the rooms. And you? I shot back. Use every free room you can find. Tell me, Ryan, is the condo going under your name or Brittany's? I heard plans are fluid. Brittany's face flushed crimson. Ethan's chair scraped against the floor. Don't do this, he hissed. But Linda leaned in, her voice soft as poison. You've had a good run, dear. It's time to let go. A woman should know when she's useful and when she isn't. There it was. The mask off. Cruelty laid bare. I let the silence stretch, their words hanging in the chandelier's glow. Useful, I repeated. You're right. I'm not useful to people who see me as disposable. I stood, smoothing my skirt. I brought cobbler, I said lightly. Dessert tastes better after the truth. Ethan snapped. Sit down, Claire, we're not finished. No, I said, setting the pie on the counter. You're not finished underestimating me. I'm done with that part. The following Monday, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hi, is this Mrs. Claire? We're confirming the showing time for your property on Willow Bend. My pulse spiked. I'm the owner. There are no showings. A pause. Then the realtor whispered, but the listing is live, and the deed shows. Send me the link, I demanded. When the email arrived, my chest seized. Photos from our last insurance inspection. A deed with my signature. Except the curves were wrong, the pressure uneven. To strangers, it looked real. To me, it screamed forgery. I forwarded it to Monica. Her reply came quick. Signature is fake. And the notary stamp, font, spacing off. I'll call the recorder's office. Do not tip Ethan off. Minutes later, a clerk confirmed. Mrs. Claire, there was an attempt to file a deed of trust last week. It was flagged. Loan amount, $800,000. 800,000. Leveraged against my home, against my father's gift. I pressed my palm to the glass, staring at the blurred neighborhood. This wasn't just an affair. It was an extraction, a strip mine of my life. That night, Ethan stormed in, waving his phone. Why are you interfering? You're making me look insane to buyers. Insane? I said evenly. Try criminal. He stepped closer, eyes blazing. No one will believe you. I'm respected. You're tired, emotional, forgetful. I forget nothing, I said. Especially my own signature. He sneered. You can't stop this, Claire, not without ruining yourself. I tilted my head. Watch me. And while you're at it, say hello to camera 3. His eyes darted toward the mantel where my father's old clock ticked innocently. Inside, a nanny cam blinked red. You're paranoid, he spat. No, I whispered. I'm prepared. Later, Monica called back. Claire, the notary whose stamp appears on that deed, he's Linda's cousin. And guess who paid off his fines last month? My grip tightened on the phone. Brittany. Yes, Monica said. This wasn't sloppy. It was coordinated. I stared into the dark window. My reflection looked back. Not broken, but sharpened. Then we tighten every bolt, I said. We cut off their oxygen. Claire, Monica asked, her voice low. Are you ready for a fight? I breathed deep, my heart steady at last. No, I said. I'm ready for the truth. If you were me, holding proof of betrayal this deep, would you confront them immediately? Or wait for the perfect moment to drop it like a thunderclap? Share your thoughts below. Someone out there may need your courage tonight. Retention hook for next part. The next morning, I kissed my father's photo, deed tucked safely in my bag. As I reached Mr. Harris's office door, my phone buzzed with an unknown call. A trembling voice whispered, "Mrs. Clare, I notarized something for Ethan, and I think I made a mistake." The line went dead, and I realized the house wasn't the only thing that was mine anymore. I sat across from Mr. Harris, Monica at my side, the deed spread across his polished mahogany desk. The morning light slanted through the blinds, striping the documents like prison bars. My pulse hammered, but my voice stayed steady. "Look here," Mr. Harris said, pointing to the forged signature. "The pressure points don't align with your authentic signature. And the notary stamp, well, I'd call it sloppy if it weren't so deliberate." Monica leaned in, her eyes sharp. "The notary is Linda's cousin. That ties the forgery directly to Ethan's family." Mr. Harris nodded gravely. "Claire, this is more than a domestic dispute. This is fraud. If you want to, we can move now. Freeze the property. File an injunction." I thought of Ethan's mocking voice. "You're past your prime. Nobody will believe you." I thought of Linda's smooth cruelty. A woman should know when she's useful and when she isn't. And then I thought of my father, his hand on my shoulder the day he gave me the house keys. "Guard this place, Claire. It's your anchor." "I don't just want to freeze it," I said quietly. "I want to make sure they can't try again." Mr. Harris folded his hands. "Then we'll request a duplicate title in your name only. Once the court validates the forgery, Ethan's claim evaporates." A current of power surged through me. For weeks, I had been drowning. Suddenly, I felt my head break the surface. That night, I cooked dinner as if nothing had changed. Ethan came home late, smelling faintly of whiskey. He dropped his briefcase, loosened his tie, and glanced at me with suspicion. "You're quiet," he said. "Just tired," I replied, sliding a casserole into the oven. "How is Palm Springs?" His eyes flickered. "Work retreat, you know that." "Of course," I murmured. Then, just enough to sting. "Funny how Brittany looked more relaxed than any coworker I've ever seen." His fork froze halfway to his mouth. "Don't start." But I wasn't starting. I was planting. Each word, each calm observation was a seed. He would grow paranoid, sloppy. That was the plan. The following week, I lost the original deed. In truth, it was secure in my father's old lockbox at Monica's office, but I told Ethan, casually over coffee. "Strange thing, I can't find the deed anywhere. Must have misplaced it." The effect was instant. His eyes darted, his knee bounced. "Really? That's unfortunate. I'll probably have to request a new one from the county," I added, sipping slowly. "Just in case." He smiled. Too fast. "Yes, good idea." By evening, I knew he was scrambling. I overheard him in the study, whispering urgently into his phone. "No, she doesn't know yet. Just push it through. She's clueless." But I was no longer clueless. I was listening, recording, collecting. One night, my phone buzzed again. Another voice memo. This one must have synced accidentally from Ethan's cloud folder. With trembling hands, I pressed play. It was Ryan's voice this time. "Once Claire's signature clears, you'll refinance. I'll use the funds to lock in the condo. Mom says Brittany should move in officially. Better optics if Claire walks away voluntarily." Then Ethan, low and assured. "She won't fight. She doesn't have it in her. She'll cry, maybe threaten, but she won't do anything." I replayed that line twice. She won't do anything. Tell me, have you ever been underestimated so completely that it almost lit a fire in your chest? That was my moment. I was no longer just defending my home. I was proving they didn't know me at all. I began my own theater. When Brittany accidentally bumped into me at the grocery store, tossing her hair so the necklace caught the light, I smiled sweetly. Lovely piece. Did Ethan mention I designed the setting for his first bonus gift? Amazing how history repeats itself. She faltered. For the first time, I saw doubt creep across her perfect features. At church that Sunday, Linda approached me with that serene smirk. I hope you're not clinging to illusions, Claire. It's undignified. I leaned in, just enough for her to smell my lavender perfume. You should pray harder, Linda. God sees forged signatures. Her hand twitched on her hymnal. Just a flicker, but enough. Meanwhile, Monica and I built a case. We photographed every forged document, time-stamped every memo. Mr. Harris filed a notice of fraud with the county, halting any transaction tied to the house. Ethan had no idea the ground had shifted under his feet. The realtor called again. Mrs. Claire, the buyers are backing out. They heard whispers the title is in dispute. Good, I said. Because it is. The silence on the other end tasted sweeter than any cobbler I'd ever baked. Still, the nights were hardest. I'd lie awake, listening to Ethan's shallow snores, and think, what if he lashes out? What if he tries to corner me before the case closes? That fear was real, but it coexisted with something new: resolve. The kind of resolve that comes when you realize your silence has been their weapon, and your voice can be the blade that cuts it all down. One evening, Ethan confronted me. He had found his briefcase rifled, though I had been careful. His eyes narrowed. You're playing games, Claire. Dangerous games. Dangerous? I tilted my head. Or inconvenient? He slammed his hand on the table. You think you're smarter than me? No, I said calmly, meeting his glare. I know I am. For the first time, he didn't laugh. He stared, jaw tight, before storming out. I exhaled slowly, my hands trembling under the table, but also steadying. That was the night I knew. The balance of power had shifted. He felt it, even if he wouldn't admit it. Days later, Monica handed me an envelope. Inside was a certified copy of the new deed. My name, and only my name, etched in legal ink. Proof, power, protection. I traced my finger over the paper, a quiet tear slipping free. Dad, I whispered, we did it. And just like that, I wasn't a victim waiting for rescue. I was the storm gathering over their lies. If you were in my shoes holding that proof, would you reveal it immediately, or wait until the perfect public moment to drop it like a thunderclap? Tell me in the comments, because that choice would define everything that came next. Oh, need a foundation, Brittany finished, her eyes gleaming. Linda chimed in, her voice syrupy but sharp. We'd like to offer you a generous stipend, dear, enough for a modest apartment. In exchange, you'll sign over the deed tonight. We even have the papers ready. She gestured, and Ryan slid a folder across the table. My name, forged in bold ink, stared up at me like a theft already in progress. For a long moment, I let the silence stretch. Their confidence thickened the air until it felt like suffocation. Then I smiled. Interesting, I said softly. You brought your version of my signature. Would you like to see mine? I reached into my bag, pulling out the certified deed. The seal glinted under the chandelier. I laid it flat on the table, the sound crisp as a gavel. This, I said clearly, is the only valid title, in my name alone, filed, certified, and protected. The silence shattered. Ethan's face drained. That's impossible. Ryan leaned forward, snarling. You tricked us. Brittany's hand flew to her necklace as if clutching the gift would steady her. Linda's lips parted, her composure cracking. How did you? I leaned back, my voice steady. While you were busy forging signatures, I was filing injunctions. While you were plotting condos, I was recording every word. And while you underestimated me, I was building a case strong enough to bury your schemes. I pulled out my phone, pressing play on the first voice memo. Ethan's voice filled the dining room. Once I sign the house over, Ryan can finally get his condo. Don't worry, Brittany. You'll have your name on everything soon. Claire won't even see it coming. The sound of their own betrayal hung in the air like smoke. Ethan lunged for the phone, but I stood, pocketing it smoothly. Careful, I said. This room has cameras. Did you forget Linda's precious security system? Every word tonight is recorded too. His hands froze midair. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. The climax had arrived, and I wasn't going to whisper through it. I was going to roar. You told me I was past my prime, I said, my voice trembling not with fear, but power. You told me I was nothing, yet here I stand, holding proof that every one of you conspired to rob me. The law is on my side. The truth is on my side. And you? You're trespassers in your own lies. I held the deed high. This villa? It's mine. And you're trespassing. The words cracked through the air like lightning. Ryan cursed under his breath. Brittany buried her face in her hands. Linda collapsed into her chair, gasping. Ethan just stared, hollow, like a man who'd finally seen the walls close in. But the night wasn't over. They tried one last, desperate move. As I gathered my things to leave, Ryan blocked the door. You're not walking out with that paperwork. Hand it over. Before I could reply, the security alarm blared because I had pressed the silent panic button on my keychain. The door burst open. 2 officers stepped in, Monica behind them, her badge in hand. Everything all right here, Mrs. Clare? The officer asked. I smiled. Perfect timing. Monica strode forward, lifting the folder Ryan had slid across the table. She flipped it open, showing the officers the forged deed. Attempted fraud, falsified documents, and conspiracy. You might want to hear the recordings, too. The officers' expressions hardened. Ryan swore. Ethan sputtered. Linda pleaded. Brittany slipped out a side door, her necklace glinting like a scarlet letter. The officers led Ethan and Ryan out, their protests ringing hollow. Linda sat frozen, her hands trembling over the lace tablecloth. I turned to her. Respect isn't given by blood, Linda. It's earned through love and kindness. Remember that, if you have the courage. And then I walked out, the night air cool against my face, my chest lighter than it had been in years. If you were in my place, watching them finally face the consequences, would you feel satisfaction or sorrow? Tell me in the comments. Because for me, it wasn't just revenge. It was reclamation. It was justice finally standing tall in my living room. And the story wasn't finished yet. The morning after the arrests, the house felt different. The walls seemed taller, the air clearer. For years, I had walked its halls with my shoulders hunched, weighed down by secrets and contempt that weren't mine to carry. Now, I moved through the rooms freely, as if my father's voice echoed from every beam. You guarded it, Claire. You stood your ground. I brewed coffee and sat by the window. Outside, the sun lit the garden Ethan had once mocked me for tending. Pointless work, he'd said. Yet now the roses stood tall, defiant, almost triumphant. I realized they were like me, rooted, pruned by hardship, but still capable of bloom. Within a week, the news spread. The local paper ran a headline: Wife outsmarts husband's fraud scheme. Inheritance home saved. Neighbors stopped me at the grocery store, at church, in the library. Some whispered their own stories of betrayal: a son who stole savings, a sister who forged a will, a husband who drained accounts. They pressed my hands, their eyes wet. "You remind us that we're not powerless," one woman told me. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't known I was missing: community. Ethan and Ryan faced charges: fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Brittany vanished from the neighborhood, her necklace auctioned quietly online. Linda tried to distance herself, but recordings tied her name to the scheme. Her smug calm was gone. Whispers said she rarely left her house now. Do I pity them? Perhaps a little, but pity isn't forgiveness. Forgiveness belongs to those who show remorse, who earn it. They hadn't. One evening, Monica sat across from me at the kitchen table sipping tea. "You could sue for damages, Claire. Emotional distress, financial compensation." I thought for a long while. Money was tempting, but what I wanted most wasn't currency. It was peace. "I won't chase what they already lost," I said finally. "They've already spent their integrity. That's bankruptcy enough." Monica smiled softly. "Then you're freer than they'll ever be." But freedom meant more than keeping the house. It meant stepping into a new chapter. So when a talk show invited me to share my story, I agreed. Sitting under bright studio lights with cameras pointed at me, I told the world. I thought silence was strength. I thought sacrifice was enough. But silence only fed their greed. Sacrifice without respect is just erasure. The day I spoke up wasn't the day I became strong. It was the day I remembered I always was. The host leaned forward. "What would you say to women watching who feel trapped like you once did?" I looked into the camera, straight into the eyes of every woman who might be sitting in her living room, wondering if her life mattered. I'd say, justice is not given. It's taken. Through courage, through truth, through remembering your worth. Don't wait for someone to hand you respect. Stand up and claim it. The audience erupted, but I wasn't thinking of applause. I was thinking of my father, of the promise I'd kept, and of every woman who needed to hear those words. Back home, I lit a candle in the dining room. Not for Ethan, not for his family, but for me, for Claire, the woman who had been underestimated, betrayed, erased, and who had risen anyway. I sat in the glow and whispered, "I'm still here. I'm whole. And I'm free." Now I turn to you. If you were in my shoes, would you have fought like I did or walked away? What's the bravest stand you've ever taken in your family? Share it in the comments. Your story might be the light someone else needs tonight. And remember, respect isn't given by blood. It's earned through love and kindness. Before I end, let me remind you. Don't forget to subscribe to Her Betrayal Stories and hit the notification bell. Here, you'll always find stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and the twists that turn tables. Where are you watching from? Leave a comment below. Who knows? The next story might echo your very own journey. Because here, no one suffers in silence. Together, we rise.